You're listening to Suburban Happy Hour with Anne-Marie
and Julia
and Keith,
the podcast where we make delicious cocktails
or mocktails
and talk about everything under the sun.
because the best conversations happen at happy hour. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Suburban Happy Hour. Today we have a very special guest. Keith is here with us. Keith is Dylan's uncle and now my adoptive uncle too, I can say. Keith
I was going to say, you could say Uncle Keith.
Uncle
It's okay.
Keith. Uncle Keith is here with us and we are so excited for a topic of choice. Keith is a romantic, if I do say so. I feel like you know a lot and you're very passionate about it. So we're so excited to talk to you about all things love.
Yes. And what's his drink of choice?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Before we get into that, we got to go through the standard, okay? Drink of choice is a Coors Light. Is that your favorite beer?
Very boring. I'm a beer guy.
Okay.
I
Okay.
really don't steer away from beer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Coors Light, and I appreciate this choice because I'm not a beer person, so a Coors Light I can do. But with that being said, first question for you, Keith, is how would you best describe your 20s?
Very undecided,
Okay.
uncertain, scary.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to break it down between the first 5 years of being 20 and the last, I would say the first 5, I was just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I didn't know. I had no direction. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I was more interested in. I hate to say this, but chasing girls.
Mm-hmm.
I loved high school way too much, and that just continued on after high school. I went to school for a little bit, and it just wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. As it's
But
not
I
for everybody.
was also just looking for the next. Like, what are we doing tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going?
Mm-hmm.
I had no plan. I had no direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told that's more normal for boys.
Honestly, girls.
I was going to say,
yeah.
I can honestly relate to like a lot of things you just said.
But I mean, but if it's relevant with girls too, that's fine. I've just heard in the past.
Right.
that
Right.
Boys don't have it all figured out. Girls seem to have more of a direction.
Okay, I could see that.
You know, you guys mature faster than we do.
Yeah.
No, that is indeed
I
Not
definitely
gonna.
understand
No shame in it saying it.
right.
You do.
Right.
So yeah, I was just very, very irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be like from 20 to 25,
Got it.
and then 25 to 30, I realized I had to.
Get your act together.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I feel like it's a common theme. We've all noticed that because most of the people that we've had on this podcast are 25 and older. And it's like a light bulb kind of goes off. When you're 25, you're like, oh shit, I'm an adult now. You know, I have to get it together. So I don't think you like realize it too late. So.
No, I didn't. And there was a moment, I had a moment in my early 20s where I was dating this girl.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you and Dylan been together?
8 years.
All right, so 8 years ago was what, 20?
16. Yeah.
Okay, so so you guys started dating when Lori and I ended, but
Got it.
my 8-year relationship that you've probably heard of Lori.
Yes.
We actually dated back in my early 20s.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
But it ended because of my like indecisiveness and my party ways.
Right.
That was a huge red flag. So when that relationship ended, I'm like, I need to do something. Like, I don't want to, that's when I met Linda, my wife or ex-wife now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when I realized like, hey, I don't want to make the same mistake.
Got it.
So I had to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you say that there is anything that you really had to like overcome in your 20s that you can remember?
Yeah, me.
Okay, that's very
That's
honest.
a good answer, honestly.
Yeah, I literally had to grow up.
Okay.
I had to figure out, I had to have a direction, I had to have a plan, and I didn't. It was all about, like I said, where's the next party? What are we doing tonight?
Right.
You know, and when that cost me a relationship, I realized, man, I'm an idiot.
Right.
like she was great, and this is back then.
Right.
I'm not saying she's not great. I'm just
Yeah.
saying
Yeah. No,
this
but
is
like,
what I'm
yeah,
thinking.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And it ended because of the way I was.
Your actions. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I gotta do something
But
different.
I think that's like important that you had that aha moment, and it's like you didn't continue, you know, because some people are never that self-aware and they just never change.
Unfortunately,
So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. Sometimes you don't, but I always knew that I wanted to be married, but I knew there's no way no one's gonna want to marry me if I was just gallivanting around,
Yeah.
from dusk till dawn.
Right.
Dang,
Keith, you were. I'm starting to get some like ideas here, and
I want to be with that guy. How does he do it?
Hey, you know what? At least you had a pretty eventful childhood or teenage or whatever.
like your young adult life. Like, hey, if Keith was there, it seems like everybody knew they were gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
That's what the vibe I'm getting here.
Well, you know what's funny too about that is, I'm not a big. I used to always say, what if I did this or should I have done that?
Yeah.
Everything that happens in your life is an experience, right?
Right.
And you either grow from it or you don't.
Right.
You either learn from it or you don't. And so, thank God I had the parents that I did that, like, I recognized, like, I gotta do something different here. Like, either change who I'm hanging out with or just, grow up. But that, like I said, when I met Linda, I knew that wasn't gonna. I just sensed that was not going to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And
with her,
so I'm like, oh. So I got to get like a real job, and I got to have a plan and and a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, is there anything that you know now that you wish that you knew when you were 20 or in your 20s?
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of repeating myself, but I wish I would have known more like what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had more of a plan and a purpose. All my friends were going to college. Right. Which is kind of the start. Right.
Right.
And listen, I visited a lot of my friends in school and,
you had fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got accepted to ISU.
Right.
I didn't go.
Mm-hmm. Wait,
because
which one?
Illinois State.
Okay.
That's where she went. Yeah.
Just because I knew myself at the time. And I'm like, if I go down there, am I going to last a semester?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what I was asking myself in my brain. And so I just opted to stay home. I went to Oakton for a little while and I worked and, but I had no I had no money responsibility. I was still living at home. So it was, every time I got paid, it was like, what are we doing tonight? Drinks are on me, that type of thing. So, but yeah, I would say, I just wish I would have I wish I would have known more what I wanted to do. I wish I would have had a better idea. I was so scatterbrained. I loved high school way too much.
Yeah.
Like the social aspect.
Right. But to be fair to you, I feel like a lot of us are at that point still. Like I have a path, but it's like, is this what I really want to do like for the rest of my life type of thing?
Yeah.
So I guess when you're like in your early 20s, it's hard to really say like, this is what I want to do. There are people who are like that and they're lucky enough. Of course, like some of our friends like always knew they wanted to be what they like are doing now. But I think like a vast majority of us were kind of like you too in a way.
Yeah. And still like now, like I just made a huge career change and I had to like rethink like, was what I was doing actually what I wanted to do, which I thought it was. And I was so passionate about it. And then leaving that profession, I was like, well, what do I do with my life now? I thought like that was where I was going to be like for my whole time in a job. So I was just like back to square one. Like now I have no idea what path I want to go down. And I had to do a lot of research on all different types of careers to figure out like what actually spoke to me. So I get it. Did you
go to school?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel like school didn't really prepare us for much of anything.
But
which is so bad
but
to
for
say,
what
but
we're doing, for some of our peers, it's very different. Like you of course need to go to school for certain things, but yeah, I'm
not, and I would never knock if anybody said I'm going to college. Great, go to college.
Right.
I think college prepares you more the academic part is important, but I think it prepares you more to be on your own. Because
Yes.
you're so used to having everything done for you.
Right. Especially when you have to go away.
So now you're on your own.
Yeah.
And now you got to like, oh, wow. My laundry doesn't wash itself. That's
Yeah,
weird.
like, what?
That's
You
weird.
know, wow.
This is so
You know,
interesting.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it does definitely prepare you to be more responsible,
Yes.
more independent.
I would agree with that.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that's so, and again, not that this is a bad thing, but I went to school and my older brother didn't. And I feel like, again, boys and girls, whatever, but I just feel like I'm so more like I can be alone and he's still like relying on other things.
Very night
like,
and day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's true though.
Yeah, it is.
But kind of moving into the reason why we brought you here today to kind of dive into relationships and all things of what you've been through in your story. Can you tell us a little bit about how your views on relationship and love has evolved throughout the years?
Yes. I'll start with this. I don't think when we're in our 20s, and I don't mean this in an offensive way to anyone. I just don't know if we truly understand what it is to love somebody when we're younger, especially in our 20s. I don't. If I'm being honest, I don't think I really figured it out until about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm still figuring it out, but I have a better understanding. I think we're too immature. I think we're too focused on ourselves. Not that that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But if you enter into a relationship that can be detrimental, because now you have to think about somebody else.
Right.
So when I was younger, what I thought was love really wasn't. I knew that I loved my mom and dad, right? And my brothers and sisters, but that's different. That's a different dynamic. It's in a relationship. I think we put too much emphasis on, like, we just, there's a cute girl I like, or there's a cute guy I like, we just want to jump right in, dive right in, slap a label on it. And, we're dating, I don't think we take the time to actually get to know someone. Okay. So to answer your question, I was way too immature to really understand what it is to be in a relationship and to actually know how it is to love somebody and to receive it. I think that goes for everybody. I'm not just saying it's me. I think if we're all being honest with ourselves, especially if you were to talk to my friends that are my age, they'd say the same thing. Like, we had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
Like when it came to relationships, we were just like, ooh, cool, someone to hang out with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shop with, spend holidays with, but as far as what it really is to love somebody, I just don't think we have I don't think we really grasp the bigger picture. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Am I, Julia, you've been with Dylan for a long time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. There's a lot that goes into it.
It really does. And I feel, obviously it's a little bit different for me, but Amory, I think you can more so touch on this, but how you were saying right now in our 20s, it's like one of the most confusing times in our life. Yeah. So it's like, especially if you're trying to figure yourself out too, and then another person comes into it, I can see how you, Yeah,
that was kind of my reasoning of not getting into a relationship or anything right now, because I have been going through so many different changes that I really lost myself at the beginning of this year. So I was like, if I don't even know myself or what I truly want, I'm not going to take on, and it's not a burden, I shouldn't use that word, but I'm not going to take on
another person.
Yeah, trying to care for and work alongside another person now.
And so what happens when if you're still trying to figure out your stuff, that translates into, let's say you meet somebody. I'm not saying you should not entertain that idea. Yeah. But if you're still trying to figure that stuff out, you're going to want to share that with that person. Is that person going to be receptive to that? Are they going to understand? Are they going to be supportive? Are they going to listen?
Right.
know?
Especially with where they're at in their life.
And
too.
I just think there's a maturity level that comes with a relationship.
Yeah.
And I am not saying that I would have to say that Dylan and Julia probably maybe the exception to the rule, because I see the way, I'm being serious. I see the way you guys are together, you know, and, I'm not saying that they've got it all figured out, but they seem happy together. They seem like they work through that stuff. When I see them, they go back and forth with each other, you know, but I see the connection. I see the love.
Yeah, so there's I guess exceptions. Yeah. And also the thing is like we also grew up together, so it's like different for if I was trying to find someone right now versus the way, because we've been together for 8 years and we've literally grown all of our 20s. We've been together. So I think that's where that dynamic is a little bit different, you know?
And you're right. There is, I definitely think there are exceptions to that stereotype or that rule.
Yeah.
Some kids, sorry.
Hey, that's all right. That sounds good.
Yeah. Some kids know what they want.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, but there's so many others that don't. And,
right.
I think those are the ones that like struggle, you know. If you know you want to be in a relationship and that's something that's that you want to strive for, then you're gonna do whatever it takes to make it work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
I think it's the mindset thing. But
yeah.
Can you share a pivotal relationship experience that really shaped your approach to love?
Yeah, I mean,
in whatever capacity you're comfortable.
So I'll say this, when going real quick, just to touch on what we were talking about before, even when I was married, I don't think that I didn't have I knew I wanted to be married. I always admired my parents' marriage and their relationship, you know, so I'm like, you know, someday I want to be married. You know?
Got it.
And you know, you always think you're doing the right thing. And God, if my ex-wife sees this, just know, Linda, I still love you, you know? But I would say, you know, a couple things in my marriage. I should have been more present as a husband. I treated it way too much like a dating relationship. But then in my next serious relationship, I'm very organized.
Okay.
I like to know where all my stuff is. I like to keep things orderly and neat and clean, and not everybody's like that.
We know.
Yeah, I am not like that. Dylan is like you, but I'm not like that.
And so, I guess I could say her name. It's not a big deal. Lori was not.
Yeah.
And that bothered me. I cringed, you know, because it's just like there's like stuff everywhere, you know. Every time we were going somewhere, I can't find my keys. I can't find this, you know. And and so in the beginning, I was always like, well, I always know where my stuff is, you know.
Yeah.
And that didn't help.
Yeah.
That didn't help at all. And it used to be a source of stress for me. It used to be a source of tension between the two of us.
Okay.
But then I realized not everybody's me.
Yeah.
And I can't expect that person to, you know, to just all of a sudden, just because she's with me and we're in this serious relationship, just, oh my gosh, I want to become organized. You know?
Change her
and
ways.
I'm going to know where everything is, you know? I mean, literally, it drove me nuts. But I had to take a step back and say, okay, this is not the way she is.
Yeah.
And eventually it became something that it's crazy to say this, but it became something that I loved about her.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what I can't say what changed. Like I can't say what made me think differently because it used to drive me bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, we get ready. We're going out to dinner. Sitting in the car. Oh shoot, I forgot. You know, she has to run back inside.
Yeah.
Come back out. Oh shoot, I forgot. Run back in the house.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
you know, and then it just became this thing where I just would laugh at it. I'm like, oh, that's just who she is. And
Yeah.
Right.
I love that about her.
Yeah.
I think it's like comes from the place of you just have to realize like, okay, like you said, not everyone is going to be like me and do the things, but then those little things that she did do made her the person that she is. So I think that that's why
I'm learning to
maybe
appreciate
like the connect
that.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like even though she leaves all her stuff everywhere, like I love Julia and it's because of that. And like we laugh about that all the time. And I know obviously like a friendship is different than a relationship, but I feel like those things, that's what you like start to appreciate about that person.
Exactly.
It literally is. It's something that you know, and the more you, in my experience, the more that you embrace it and not push your ways, the more they see where you're coming from.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that goes both ways too.
Right.
You know, I wasn't like, I found myself not caring so much where I set something down. Did it drive me nuts when I couldn't find it?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But you know, I wasn't so focused on that because that's not something that you like, that's not a red flag. I guess, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and I know there's questions about that later.
you're good.
I'm just saying it wasn't, you can't let that say, oh, she's so unorganized. I can't believe every time we go out, she can't find her wallet.
It's not like a deal breaker. Yeah.
You know, right. Yeah.
And again, like I feel like if you keep harping on all of those like small issues, it could just like form into a bigger one. You have to know like the battles, just when to kind of let things go, and then when to like actually push a certain opinion that you have.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like when she couldn't find something and we were leaving, I was like, well, where'd you leave it? Where'd you put it? Like, why can't you just put it here and leave it here at this, you know?
Right.
But then it evolved to, all right, well, where'd you last see it? Like, here, let's go look for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll check over here. You check over here, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
You know?
Teamwork.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. No. It's funny because I really relate to that. Dylan's the same way, but he gets annoyed with it, but other times he's like, okay, let's just find it and move on.
Right.
Yeah.
So
right.
no,
let's not let it ruin our night.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But I think that's like a perfect segue into our next question about more lessons that you've learned from past relationships.
Oh man. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I don't know what the time restraint is on this, but I mean, so I think, it's being sacrificial. It's wanting to please the other person and not so much the focus on me.
Okay.
Not what can you do for me? What can I do for you?
Okay.
How can I make you happy? You know, and that ties into all of the little quirks that are personality quirks that we all have, right?
Right. Exactly.
You know, I mean, I have this thing. I can't stand crumbs on the floor. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
You know, I'll literally, if there's,
Don't look at my kitchen.
if there's people over, I'll break out the vacuum and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, just, and like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I think it's just accepting, you know, you have to have a line. Like, I'm not saying, you know, if there's clearly things that you're not compatible with, I'm just saying it's the little things. And I think that's a lot of times in a relationship, that's what it really boils down to.
Yeah.
It's the very minuscule things that we focus on. And if you just take a step back and go, wait, is this really important?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, she left so she doesn't clean the dishes, or she doesn't rinse off the dishes before she puts them in the dishwasher. Or
Keith, you're scaring me. You and Dylan. This is Dylan. Can you tell they're related? Can you tell they're related? This is literally what we fight about is the stupid dishwasher and the fact that I don't rinse my plates. I've been doing it now because it makes him happy. But
but so let me ask you this though: is that in the big picture?
Right.
Is that really like putting you out?
No, but ask him that question.
No, but and that's I only asked that question because I'm sure that there's things on the other side.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You brought. I just mentioned dishwasher.
Yeah.
So
it's a trigger point for me, Keith.
Well, because listen, there's a lot of little things.
Yeah.
I heard this. I was listening to this pastor, and he was talking and he's like, there's so many like things that can like ruin a relationship or a marriage, right? He's like, but you don't realize all the little things that will drive the husband and wife crazy, like the dishwasher.
Right.
One person just throws them in there. Someone else like, let's rinse them off first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Toothpaste in the bottom of the sink.
Yeah.
Like that bothers me. Like I don't like when I go up to the sink, like even after I brush my teeth, I'm like, oh, that's gotta go. And I'm like, I just want it to be clean. I mean, you never know who's coming over. You can't clean every single day.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just show up. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
I like to be prepared.
Exactly. No.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
It's really is like the little things, how you were saying. It's like if you can make those work, I feel like then you'll really will recognize the big things. And then if there's an issue.
And what's truly important. Like if you guys can't navigate through the small stuff, you're not going to be able to navigate through the really complicated things.
Right, exactly.
Okay? So dishwashers and toothpaste and and stuff on the floor, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay? Because we all know in a relationship you are going to have to navigate through a lot harder, more difficult situations.
Right. Right.
Look at my brother Brent and Norma Jean.
Right.
Perfect example.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So, Brent leaving toothpaste in the sink, probably the least of Norma Jean's concerns.
Exactly.
We have to pick our, for lack of a better term, we have to pick our battles.
Right. Exactly.
Literally in a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's so true. And I think too, it all comes down to just communication and like how you handle those specific things. Like, are you willing to speak up on certain things, even if they're little, like just letting your partner know, like, hey, this has been bugging me, and just how your partner then is receptive to that as well. I think that is a huge part in maintaining those little things that could get frustrating.
And it's how you communicate it too.
Exactly.
Right? It's how you say it, even if it's small, it might not be important to him, but it's important to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
How do you communicate it?
Exactly.
Right?
That's so true.
If you're confrontational, he's going to be like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Right? Or the other way too. Like I'm just saying, both sides. But if you say, "Hey, babe, can you rinse those off before you put them in the dishwasher, please?"
Yeah.
For me,
Just
most sane dudes are going to be like, "You know what? Yeah, I can do that." Yeah.
No, exactly. But you touched on like the bigger things, and I think one of the biggest things when it comes to relationships is the heartbreak, the not so good times. So we're kind of shifting gears a little bit here. But how have you how have you handled heartbreak, and did any specific experience help you grow?
So I would say first and foremost, so when I was going through my divorce, I didn't address the stuff that I was going through. So that's mistake number one. I just figured, you know what, I'm just going to get through this. And, I think some pride gets in the way, and you don't want to realize that you need more help than you do. Of course I have my brothers and sisters who I love dearly. And so focusing on family, was huge. as far as dealing with that heartbreak. But I also ignored a lot of the anger and resentment that I had towards my ex at the time. And it's normal. Like, you get divorced, you're going to have those feelings. I finally decided to go to counseling. So I went to counseling. And I wasn't ashamed of going to counseling. I wasn't ashamed of saying I was going to counseling. It helped. Trust me, going to counseling was probably the best thing I did, because she helped me realize that I was like holding on to all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I was carrying around all this baggage, and I didn't need to. And I was, you know, and I didn't want to be angry.
Right.
Not only is it not good for me, it's not good for my kids. And I didn't want to, I didn't want to have those. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I want to have those feelings towards my ex.
Yeah.
Right. Because you had so much love for that person at one point.
At one point, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I wanted to get to a place where I like was okay, and her and I could, you know, be in the same room and talk to each other, and we're actually really good friends now.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, as far as dealing with heartbreak, family and friends and counseling, and you know, I would say the biggest thing is just allowing yourself to go through the process.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks when they hear the word grieve, they think, okay, somebody died.
Right.
But grieving comes in all shapes and sizes. It's not just death. It's loss, a relationship that ended, a marriage that ended. You're grieving.
Right.
That's literally the definite. You're grieving.
Right.
So I had to allow myself to go through that process, which I didn't. At first.
How long did it take you to realize, like, hey, okay, I don't want to be in this place anymore. Like, I want to move past this.
You know what, Julia, that's an awesome question. I didn't even realize that I hadn't dealt with any of this stuff until I was like 3-4 years into my relationship with Lori.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Because
my counselor told me this. Very wise. You know, all I was thinking was, if I can just be in another relationship, everything will be fine. Right?
Yeah. A lot of people do that.
And that's a huge mistake. Right? Because just because you find another relationship doesn't mean that you've dealt with the past relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. And I learned that the hard way, because the closer Lori and I got, the more triggers came out in that relationship. Okay. So I would say I didn't even properly deal with my divorce until 4 years into my relationship with Lori.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, wow, I'm carrying around all this stuff.
Yeah.
Things that were lacking in my marriage that came up in that relationship.
Yeah.
And not knowing how to react to it, not knowing how to communicate that.
Right.
You know, for fear of rejection. I already felt like I was rejected. Right. Now I'm going to try to talk to this new person. And, you know, it's just so.
And it's hard to like realize that, hey, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it feels good, especially when you have something new. It feels fun and fresh, and you don't even think that you're going to fall into the same patterns. But it's like, it's kind of inevitable.
You never want to think that there's something wrong with you. And I think that's probably one of the biggest problems with all of us, and especially in relationships. It's like, there's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
I'm fine. No.
Yeah. But no, I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like people don't sit with the loss of that relationship, and they are just like, their kind of ego gets damaged. Like, oh, that person doesn't want me anymore or whatnot. And then they jump into something else so quickly because they need like that void filled. And then it just ends up like you're just repeating the same cycle, or down the road, like it might all seem like rainbows and butterflies right away, but then you'll notice that, oh, I haven't like fixed this within myself yet. So now I'm doing the same things I did in that past relationship that hurt it. So you're not like taking that time to really dive into why that relationship ended in the first place. And even if it wasn't, I mean, a marriage is way different than just like a normal relationship, but those trends still like track. You could still say like, why did my relationship end, or why did my marriage end, and really look deep within to try and fix that.
Right.
So that's amazing though that you did realize it at some point and you went on to try and better yourself.
I did. And it's, like I said, we just think that we're going to fix it by jumping into another relationship, and that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Take it from me. It doesn't work.
Okay.
It does not work.
Yeah.
Are there any other common mistakes that you think people make going into relationships?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a laundry list of things. I think underestimating the friendship aspect.
Oh yeah, that's another question we have for you.
So is that later? Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. No, like that. Yeah.
I think, we're so accustomed or programmed to like, oh, you see a pretty girl, like, oh, she's pretty.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to her, and it's you've already slapped that like label, that dynamic into, it's like, I want to meet this girl, instead of maybe just letting it evolve the way it should.
Yeah.
Being friends, getting to know that person. I think the friendship aspect is so underestimated, underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think intimacy, and I'm throwing that word out there because everybody, when they hear intimacy, they're like, oh, immediately they go to the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's so many forms of intimacy, and I think intimacy starts outside the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have it outside the bedroom, you're not going to have it in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That is, you have to be friends. You have to hear each other, talk to each other, communicate, know each other. I will say that women are probably way better at talking than men.
Yeah.
There's some exceptions. I'm a communicator.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
My father told me years ago, you're not going to be successful in any relationship if you don't communicate, whether it's husband, wife, brother, sister,
Friends, whatever it is,
friends,
coworkers,
yeah, you have to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the friendship thing is definitely undervalued and underappreciated.
Anne-Marie mentioned how like she misses the fact, like with these apps and all that stuff, you don't get to be friends anymore.
Yeah.
And you were saying that you want to be like friends with the next guy that you're with,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes sense, because if you wouldn't be friends with someone, how can you expect to like work in a relationship? Like if I wouldn't be your friend, how can I expect you to be my partner?
Exactly, because like the dating apps now,
you're there.
You both
date.
know what,
like,
you both know that you're looking for a relationship, so it takes out that. Let's just get to know each other on a more
organic,
a more organic level and less like pressure, because then I feel like when you both know that you want to date each other or whatever, like you're both looking for something, you just like
you skip that part.
Yeah, like you're acting like you're not as your true self. You know what I'm trying to say? Like you're trying to put on a show for them, like on the first date, because you're like, oh, I want this person to like me. I want them to be my boyfriend or my girlfriend, and it's just like you're not as organic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and don't you think too, with the dating apps, you're already kind of slapping a label on it.
Yeah,
because
you're like,
because
you're attractive. You're not like,
on a dating app.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. And I'm not criticizing anybody for that. I'm just saying,
we can't get
I tried it for a little while. I felt like I was a product.
It's terrible.
At
it's
like,
truly terrible.
At like Target or Walmart, you know?
Yeah,
like,
online
here I
shopping.
am, you know, I'm Keith. I got blue eyes. I'm 5'8.5", you know. You're kind of already like, if you're on a dating app, and I'm not judging people for that.
Right.
But you're already going, okay, I want to, you know.
Right.
I feel like people don't meet each other organically anymore. It's you know.
It's tough out here.
It's, you know, and I'm not saying that it can't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've had some friends.
Adelie and Joe.
Right, exactly.
Adelie and Joe met on a dating app. And I thought the way they met and the way that whole thing played out was great.
Right, right. And they're married. So it's like, it
works. We have
works.
friends that are married too, or in very like long relationships, but it's like, how? Like, let me know how, because I don't understand.
So moving right along. Now, what do you think are like the key components of a lasting, healthy relationship? Because we know people have been in long relationships when they shouldn't be in a relationship anymore. So let's focus on the healthy.
So the first thing that I will say, and Julie, this probably shouldn't come as a surprise to you, is faith. I think faith is key in a relationship. Now, whether you're Jewish, Catholic, Christian, Hindu, Buddhism, it doesn't matter. I think when you go into a relationship and one person's Catholic and one person's Jewish, you're going to have problems. I think I don't know where you are on the faith spectrum. I've just met you. Yeah. So I don't know where you are, but for me, it's all about God.
Right.
So I want to meet someone who has the same faith as me. I think that's a huge step in the right direction. You can dislike, you don't have to like the same foods. You don't have to like the same music, right? But if you're not on the same page spiritually, no matter what you believe, I think you're going to run into problems. That's just how I feel.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just think that's so funny because when we were sitting here waiting, me and Julia were just talking about like some of our deal breakers for a relationship. And I said, if they don't have like the same values as me.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, faith is a core value.
So important.
Right. Yeah.
Like, again, you can have different likes and dislikes, but like if you're missing those fundamental values and they're not on the same wavelength, like
it's just
as much as you want it to work and as much as you try to make it work, it's probably not going to work.
Right.
Yeah. I think faith is at the core of that. And I think if you're on the same page there, I think everything else is probably easy to navigate through, but I'm going to go as far as to say that if you don't believe in God and you're not on that same page, it's going to be hard for you guys to navigate through those things that you maybe differ on. Right. Even politics can be polarizing in a relationship.
That's literally what Amory was saying. Yeah.
If one person feels this way about this issue and the other person's on the total opposite spectrum, you're limiting that intimacy, that closeness, that conversation. Because now it's like we don't talk about that. You know? And I got to be honest with you, that when I talk to people like that are in relationships or married and stuff, and they say, we can't discuss that. It pains me. It hurts me because I'm like, that's not how it should be.
You should be able to talk about
anything. You don't have to like sushi. Right. Like that's not but that stuff's core. That's important.
Yeah, I would never want to feel like I have to walk on eggshells when I'm with the person that I want to marry or that I'm with long term.
Right.
That just like would not be
That's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I don't want to have to shy away from certain conversations because I don't want to offend them, and I don't want them to feel like, oh, I don't want to offend her. It's like, okay, then this isn't gonna work.
Yeah. You know, like, you're home at the end of the day. You're watching TV, and the news is on, and it's like, oh, I can't. I'm gonna go for a run.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like what.
Yeah.
I understand.
And I would say spending time together, I think is vital too. Why are you in the relationship if you're not going to do things together? You're not going to want to do everything that the other person is going to do. But I think in a committed relationship, you make those sacrifices, you do those things that maybe that's not necessarily your cup of tea, but because she wants to do it or because he wants to do it, you do it anyway.
Exactly.
I'll give you an example. Can I give you an example real quick? When I was in my second long relationship, she wanted to go antiquing. And see, yeah.
Not my thing.
Somebody likes antiquing.
Yeah.
She wanted to go antiquing in Sandwich, Illinois.
Oh my gosh.
On a Sunday during bear season.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Now, I went.
Right.
I went because
Good job. You know what? Good job.
And you know, if I'm being honest, would I have preferred to have watched the game? Absolutely. But this is something she really wanted to do. And so we went.
Right.
And I forewent the Bears game. Now, it actually worked out a little bit in my favor because there happened to be a little bar and grill right there.
See?
And she was hungry, and so I got to watch a little bit of the game. The point is you do things with somebody that you love even though you don't necessarily love that thing, but it's because it's something that she likes. And you the hope is that she looks at that the same way.
Right.
You know, if there's something you want to do and she's not particularly, like, oh, okay, I don't like paintballing, but I'll go because he wants to do it. And I don't know why I thought of paintballing.
But yeah.
No, that's.
But do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's because love is a sacrifice.
It is. Yeah.
It's a huge sacrifice.
So true. We were laughing because I had a a similar situation, but it didn't go my way.
And it made you sad. It was sad. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my birthday, and
okay. When's your birthday?
It's in December.
Okay.
So I wanted to go ice skating, and I was with like two of my best friends. Dylan was there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, oh,
Dylan's
let's go
awesome,
ice.
By the way,
oh,
isn't he?
yes. Yeah. I wanted to go ice skating for my birthday, and my boyfriend at the time was like, no, I don't ice skate. I don't do that. And we were like,
and you didn't go.
Okay. My best friends went ice skating without me, and I went back home, and oh my God, this story turns crazy.
It's okay.
No, I went back home, and we literally almost got arrested.
Yeah, because she
nice.
I left my phone in the Uber, and then he got mad at her. It was just not.
It was so bad. I left my phone in an
the red
Uber
flags,
because
Steve.
like I was so flustered. Like, it's my birthday, blah blah blah. And then the Uber driver tried to blackmail me to get my phone back. He was like, "You have to give me $500."
Really?
I literally stood in front of his car, the Uber, and we were calling 911.
It was so bad.
All because
her boyfriend didn't compromise on her birthday
and go ice skating.
Well,
exactly.
And I'm gonna go on a limb and say this guy's no longer in the picture.
No.
Yes, I did tell you he's very single when he came in.
So
no.
Yeah, that's a great example. Like you have like. If I didn't ice skate, I would have gone, and I probably would have fallen down and looked like an idiot. But you know what?
There were videos of them, like
something that she wanted to do, and so I would have done it.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
Like,
sacrifice.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the problem. And I wrote these. I had some notes here. Spending time together, communication, and selflessness. Like you can't be. It can't be about you in a relationship.
Yeah.
No matter how much you like, you're like, oh my, I need this. if you're not in the relationship for the other person, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My dad told me a long time ago, you get, and I'm speaking marriage here just because this is the advice he gave me, and I'm hoping that you and Dylan will get married. He said, you don't get married to make you happy. You get married to make the other person happy. And the hope is that you meet someone that feels the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so nice.
It is nice.
But kind of now going into this, because based on that story.
Hold on. I don't know where you're going with it, but I was going to ask this question, the red flags one, because that like kind of.
Okay, go right ahead.
Which number is that?
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. He's trying to keep it in track here. I was going to jump.
Are we jumping ahead?
Yeah.
Oh,
no, because
this
I
is
feel
so
like
hard.
I feel like with what you were saying, like the things that, you know, you have to compromise on and all this stuff to pay attention to. I was going to ask, what are some like red flags that you think that the younger generation can kind of spot early on?
Which one is that?
Just 13.
Oh, so we're jumping way ahead.
Yeah.
We're still going to go back. Don't worry.
I would say, so what the question is, what are some red flags for the for the mid-20s, like later?
So, yeah, the young, just in general, like younger people
generations
that we should pay attention to early on. So we just avoid a whole mess of
I don't know if we're going to get, I'll just stick with the red flags.
Okay.
Because I have other thoughts on that because I answered some of those earlier.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Some of the other questions. But as far as red flags, first of all, I would say somebody who can't communicate.
Yeah.
That's big. If they're closed off, probably want to maybe, steer away from that person. Negativity.
Yeah.
Somebody that doesn't support you or offer support, those are big things in a relationship, right? Something that, and I think especially for women, that they want to feel appreciated. Mm-hmm. They want to feel the support. They want to feel, they want to communicate. I would say the majority of men are probably not as good at communicating as women. Mm-hmm. There are exceptions.
Right. Keith.
But
Keith isn't gonna
I was kind of joking, but that's only because my dad emphasized that growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like
and it's really like communication is so easy yet so hard. Mm-hmm. I feel like everybody understands the concept of communicating with someone, but then getting down to it, it's a lot tougher.
Getting down to it, and also how you communicate.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If your way of communicating is yelling, that's not communicating.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be willing to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And hopefully that doesn't blow up in your face.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be with somebody who also recognizes the importance of being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you have that, you can pretty much say anything. Okay. Nothing's going to come back. And, our tendency is to always pick apart what you're doing wrong as opposed to taking a step back and going, what can I do different?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We all have that
mentality.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mentality. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, we do. We're so quick to, Julia, I mean, why can't you just, instead of going, what can I, what can I do different?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's not natural for us.
Mm-hmm. It's not.
We just want to pick apart what the other person does because it makes us feel better because we're feeling insecure about something,
mm-hmm.
or we don't like something that the way we handle it, right? As opposed to just addressing that. And
I definitely have done that too in my past relationships. I think oh no, I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing this, blah, 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 blah. Why aren't they doing, or I don't know, I place blame on the other person or I have in the past. And I really had to take a step back and think, okay, no, what can I do? Where do I need to make those fixes in myself then to come to terms with what's going on the other side. So,
right.
And see why we, you know why we always fail in that mentality is because we start asking ourselves, why do I always have to make the sacrifice? Why do I always have to be the one person to make the change? But my advice would be, don't ever change that mentality about you, because you will meet somebody someday that will feel the same way.
Yeah. And that values that.
As long as you have that approach, you are doing the right thing.
Right.
Okay. Because it's not about, what can Anna Marie get out of this, or what can Julie get out of this, right? What can I do different? And the hope is that you meet somebody that feels the same way.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wrote down was people that don't take responsibility and never think that they're wrong. Right. Those are huge, huge red flags.
Just in general, a person like that sounds like the worst.
Yeah.
Like if they can't,
Right.
If they don't accept responsibility and they have a hard time admitting that they did something wrong, get out of Dodge.
Yeah. Okay.
That's so true. So because we were kind of talking about how it took you a while to kind of mature into these new aspects of dating, or this new mindset. So how would you say that age has really influenced what you look for in a partner?
Oh my gosh. So the bar has obviously been raised. And my kids are 26 and 24. And they're the greatest thing ever.
They're pretty cool.
They ask me all the time, Dad, why are you still single? Why, and my answer is, when I was younger, I would have jumped into a relationship just so I could be with somebody. So I had somebody to spend holidays with and do stuff with, just everyday stuff.
Right.
But I'm no longer willing to do that. I want to, if I'm going to meet somebody, it's going to be somebody that is on the same page with me when it comes to very vital, important things,
Right.
like we discussed. I'm not willing to sacrifice that. So I'm not just going to hang out with somebody or date somebody because I'm alone. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that I had to learn how to be happy being by myself, content. Okay. And the way I got there was I focused on my faith and my family. And those two things when I started focusing on that, I realized my happiness doesn't hinge on anyone else. My happiness comes from above. It comes from God first and foremost. And so I feel like the more I focus on my faith and my relationship with God, the better father I am to my kids, the better friend I am to my friends, the better uncle I am.
Yeah.
Or, brother. And I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm in no way, shape, or form saying I'm perfect. I get it wrong a lot. But my faith in God keeps me going forward, and it reminds me that I don't need somebody in my life to make me happy. Would I like that? Absolutely. God knows my heart. I talk to him all the time. I'm like,
when the time's right,
send someone my way.
But I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I have these conversations. I'm like, anyone?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm good being alone. I'm just saying. But that took a long time for me to get to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like you're now at a much better place than you were in the past, and it's like, but it took time and effort and energy to get here. To like really love yourself. I feel like that's like the message that at least how I'm interpreting it is like, you got to love yourself first, before you can really.
And Julie, I would say, there's a lot of things I don't love about myself. I would say it's just more being happy where I'm at and being content being by myself. There's a lot of things that that I do like about myself, and there's some things that I still need to work on.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just coming to a place where you say, okay, here comes another Thanksgiving, but you know what? I'm going to see my friends.
Right.
I'm going to see my family. I'm going to Pam and Rich's.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see whoever's going to be there.
Right.
And that's exciting, and that's fulfilling to me.
Exactly.
Now, if next year there's somebody in the picture, that's just
an extra layer.
And exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an extra. It's an extension of my happiness, but it's not the meaning or the existence of my happiness, because nobody should rely on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because listen, we're human. We're always going to let somebody down.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So do you think that is kind of that one piece of advice you would give your younger self about love, is to really just kind of trust in your faith first and then move forward with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. Like I said at the beginning, I don't like to do what ifs, but for the sake of you guys having me here, and I appreciate it, I'm going to do the what if.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I could, I would, if I could go back in my 20s, I would have definitely focused more on my relationship with God as opposed to anything else. But I would also, I would have done so many things differently.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have gone to ISU. I probably would have, not been so infatuated with women at the time.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like, I wish, I guess I would have changed my priorities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have had different priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
But something that I wrote down in my notes, I would never, here's the other thing, I would never change
Right.
anything that I did, because everything that I've done up until this point has gotten me to where I'm at, where I'm truly happy. I'm not, like I said, I'm not perfect, but I've learned so much from my marriage and my other relationship. And I'm not saying my last relationship ended in 2016. So I've dated here and there,
Right.
but it's never been, I've never had the same approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't like, okay, I got to make this work. I'm like, no, you can't force it to work. But that's where that experience comes in. And that's where I say, I can't, this is not the person. Like I just recognize it right away. I was dating that girl for a while, for 6 months. She was a little closed off, and that didn't work for me because I have a big family. And, for her to, when I started bringing around the family, and like there was just not a lot of conversation, and that bothered me. Like she would listen, but she wouldn't talk.
Yeah.
I know this sounds crazy.
No, but
no, your family is like, you guys love to talk. You guys love to make people feel included.
But it's like,
and
like
yeah,
Julie,
and that's
you've been to my family parties. Like, everybody's just like, woohoo.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's just, and family's like so important to you. So if your partner can't fit in,
I just,
then I get it. Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying like the most important thing for me is the faith, but also like, how do you interact? Like, how do you interact with me, and how do you interact with my family? That's important to me.
That's
really
a core value. Yeah.
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 So
I definitely agree with that too, because I have like a really big family as well. And we do so much stuff together. Like we do weekly dinners or whatnot. So it's like, if you can't get along with them, or you can't have like a conversation with them or whatnot, like that's another thing. Like it's not going to work.
And it's not like you want to bring that person over and be like, okay, see you later.
Yes.
But you want to know that they can that they can
Mesh.
that they're comfortable.
Yeah, that they can,
that they feel
right?
safe
Talking
in that.
with your family,
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
You know,
And my family can be a lot.
Yeah.
it's okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Need
yes,
somebody to handle that.
No, exactly. But I feel like this ties into our next question of how can younger people recognize when a relationship is worth working through or when it's worth just, letting go and moving on?
I think so. My first thought is, if it's a struggle, walk away. Like if it's a struggle from the beginning and you're already like not, you're already having issues. No. A relationship, I don't want to say a relationship should be easy. I think a relationship should be easy when it comes to, like, this is going back to what we talked about before, the lighthearted stuff.
Right.
But if you're having trouble in those areas, then you should probably walk away. And that's why it's important to, and I think the younger generation, they're afraid to go down this road or even like put it out there because their focus is, I just want to be with someone. And I would say to the younger generation, don't settle and just ask, like dive into some of the deeper stuff in the beginning.
Like you're not like, don't be scared of like
that.
scaring people away.
Right.
Yeah.
Dive into some of the deeper
that.
stuff in the beginning because
you're wasting time.
Listen,
Yeah,
you
small
can,
talk
right,
is just like
right.
cool.
You can say, oh my gosh, I love mushrooms on my pizza, and I love chicken fingers, or I love movies or skateboard, whatever it is that you guys love to do. Those are the easy things, right? And I think that's what happens in the beginning. You do all this fun stuff together, and it's great, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, what? You don't believe in God, or you don't believe this, or you don't believe that. I'm throwing out examples.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're like, but
oh,
then
now I
it's
just
like,
wasted
now
all
it's
this
like
time.
3 months into a relationship, and you're like, what do I do?
Right. Right.
So I'm simply saying, maybe get that, like,
get it out of the way.
Talk about that stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then you'll know, like, he believes in God. Great. Okay. I can work with that.
Yeah.
Right. He goes to church every Sunday. Okay. I can work with that too. Okay. Let's, it's the important, I think it's the important things that matter. And I think those are the things that they don't dive into right away. And they find out later, after they've had this great time for 4 or 5 months, and then you're like,
Yeah, I think it's almost for fear of like trying to like come off as too forward, like when it's just like we're just starting things out. But honestly, at this age, I mean, at least from my friends, like you guys aren't looking for fun. It's like I'm looking for someone serious,
listen, if you have a certain set of standards and morals, right? Yeah. Why would you, if you're entertaining a relationship, why would you even put those on the back burner? Why would you even sacrifice those? Talk about those from the get-go.
That's good piece of advice right there. And that's the sad thing is, like, I feel like the dating world now, for our age, maybe it's different for the different generations, but I feel like that's not what it is right now.
Oh no, it's just like simply small talk, like all that, and that like makes my insides like cringe. I hate small talk. I think yes, and I think it's important to know those little things about people, but that also, like, the fun of it is that comes with time. Like, if we're doing something and you're like, oh wait, I actually love this. Like, you're gonna pick up on those little small talk aspects throughout that relationship. I think it is important to like talk about. Again, you don't want to like sit and like, what family trauma do you have? Like, maybe don't like bring it up like that, but you need to like try to dig into those deeper topics, like on when you first are meeting each other.
I think it's I know it sounds crazy, and a lot of people are like, what?
Yeah.
No, because again, 5 months down the road, you've done all this great stuff, right? Woohoo, we're having a great time, and then you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then and now you're vested a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're trying to figure now you find yourself in the mode of, well, maybe I can change his mind,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe I can, or maybe I can change her mind, or
Right.
no.
Yeah, especially as adults, like you have your ways. Like sure, people can change, but I feel like your core stuff, like that's very hard to change.
Yeah,
and it's hard to ask. It's like that's also unfair to ask of someone to change for you.
But I think that like kind of goes perfectly into our last question as well.
Yeah.
Like what advice can you give on how to build that trust and communication, since it is such a huge part of a relationship? That's literally the key. Get that computer out, Keith.
What was the last question? Last question. Oh, to build a trust, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you could give
Up
advice
one more.
on how to build trust,
Right
yeah.
there,
15. Oh. I made some notes. Building trust is hard. It absolutely is. That goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
I love, so I'm gonna tell a story real quick about a pastor that told this story, and this is one of the guys that I follow online.
Mm-hmm.
When you're married and you have a kid, or you find out that your wife is pregnant, okay, you love that. There's no like grace period, emotional like warming up period.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be when my wife told me she was pregnant, like I bawled. Shocker, I know. But I fell in love with that child immediately, even though she was just a little tiny fetus.
Yeah.
But there's no like getting to know you, like period. You just love that child. That from the time you find out you conceived to the moment she's born and every day after. In a relationship, it's different in a relationship. You just don't walk up to somebody and go, Julia, I love you.
Some
right?
people do.
Some people do.
I mean, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
like there's a period where you have to get to know each other. Right. And in that period, there's the building of the trust, right? So, yeah, trust is built. It's not given. First of all, you can't just be like, I trust you. Yeah, that doesn't work that way. Okay. So what I'm saying is, just like I loved my daughter from the moment I knew she was conceived, you can't. Trust doesn't work that way. It's earned. So how do you earn that trust? You're intentional in your relationship. You're intentional in your feelings and your communication. You want somebody to know what's going on in your head, say it. I've always said this. People in my life always know where they stand because I tell them,
Right.
because I communicate with them. Okay. And that's part of building trust. It's also actions. You say you're going to do something, do it. Right. That's another way trust is built, is doing what you say you're going to do. Yeah. Actions speak louder than words. I wrote that down, it's right here. And communication. Yeah. Communication is huge. People are so afraid to communicate what's going on in their head, whether it's good or bad. Right. And sometimes it's bad. I don't want to say bad, but sometimes you might have to communicate something that, it's like, hey, babe, something you said the other day kind of, right. And again, it's all how you communicate it.
Right.
But that also builds trust. If you're if you're comfortable enough communicating it, and hopefully that's the same way on the other side, you have to feel safe.
Right.
And when you're with somebody, you have to know, first of all, that vulnerability thing comes into play, but you have to feel safe saying, hey, listen, you know, I know it was all in good fun the other day, but you brought up something that I was kind of like, it was a little like, you know, and, you know, and hopefully that person's like, you know what, I'm sorry.
Right.
I probably shouldn't have said that. And it could be, I mean, I think you guys know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
It's, sometimes there's little things that you share with each other.
Yeah.
It maybe come out in like a in like a friend conversation.
Yeah.
And then whether it's the girl or the guy, they're like, "Oh, I didn't think that was going to
be." I share that in confidence.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But as long as you know, like as long as somebody doesn't go, you know, crazy about it, just maybe in private say, "Hey, I thought that was a kind of a you and me thing," and
yeah.
If you apologize, if you're sincere about it, you know, that builds trust too.
Exactly.
If the other person's like, "Oh, you know, lighten up, you pansy," or whatever. That's not going to go over well.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
You know, so yeah, trust is hard, but I think it's communication, it's honesty, it's vulnerability.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
And it's feeling safe. Right. But I think also the actions, like doing, you know.
Yeah.
Doing what you say
as the
you're
saying
gonna
goes,
do.
actions speak louder than words, you know.
Well, it's not only that, but it's, okay, you know, let's say Dylan was working in the city late one night and he comes home and he has flowers for Julia. That's a very nice thing. Right?
Yeah.
But believe it or not, that is also a way of establishing trust.
Yeah.
You know, like there's so many different ways to do that. Flowers, just words, you know, hanging out on the couch,
right,
talking. I would say talking is probably the biggest one, the intimacy. You know, intimacy is huge. Like I said, it starts outside the bedroom.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It definitely does. So
that's so true.
Yeah.
So then, kind of to wrap this up, and thank you again so much for coming on. I feel like I have learned, honestly, I'm not even joking, like so much just from hearing about like past things that you've gone through and different stories and the advice that you give. So I commend you for even coming on here and being willing to share those not so pretty parts of a relationship. Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not all pretty.
Yeah, and you know that's how it is though. That's just life. Like,
right.
No one is going to have a picture perfect life, unfortunately, as much as we want that. So it's really nice to hear somebody that's not technically like in our age group experiencing some of the things that we have and seeing how you overcame them. It's awesome. So we really do appreciate having you.
I'm so glad you guys had me.
Yeah, thank you.
I really am.
I knew it'd be a good one. I know you have, you know, a lot to say about it, and when you mentioned this topic, you're like, I'm really passionate about it. I'm like, but I could tell. I've known you for 8 years now, and it's like, just love all around, you know? And it's such an important thing. And I think like everybody can relate to love. It's like the movies, the food, things that like that everybody can relate to. I feel like love is one of those things. And, you know, it's an important thing and it's hard, but it's beautiful. So.
I think it drives the world. And I think so many people don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or don't understand it.
Yes. Everybody knows what love is, but it's like, do you truly understand what it is? That's like a whole nother, you know, ball game.
Yeah. And I know that my 20s was different than the 20s now, but I still think it's
so funny because I feel like, we all like the things that you were saying, I know, and even I have felt too. So it correlates in.
I feel like Anne-Marie's more like the old school way because like we were saying with the app.
She is. She's old school.
She is. And but the thing is like
no, I don't mean that in a bad way.
Good or bad?
No, it's good.
Good because when you mentioned like the whole wanting to be friends first, I'm like, why aren't you on the dating apps? But looking at me and Dylan, we were friends for a good 3 years prior to us even dating because we had the luxury of meeting in high school and we were friends before we ever started dating and we were like good friends. And it's like, that's a luxury I feel like nowadays, you know?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden something clicked, right?
Right,
Or
exactly.
Yeah, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, hey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of like
Hey,
this
how
kid.
you doing? I kind of like this guy.
Yeah.
You did the Joey Tribbiani. How you doing?
Literally. No. But even though, how you were saying, it's a different generation, but I feel like the fundamental core of it all is like, it's still the same.
Yeah.
You know?
So kind of, you could talk about relationships in this part, but kind of pushing away from that if you also want to as well. Just what is some general advice you would give somebody in their 20s right now?
I would say figure out yourself first. Don't be so quick to be in a relationship, and I would say especially now. I don't know why, but I'm just gonna say I just feel like it's more. It's just different now. The dynamic's different. The pressure's
It's
different.
a game.
Yeah. You know, figure out what you want to do. Get yourself, like, whatever goals you have, like, just start working towards those. It'll make you better equipped to be in a relationship when you get to there. I'm not saying you have to have all your goals and stuff achieved. I'm saying, but just establish that. You want to go to school, go to school. I want to graduate college. I want to get a job, and then I want to entertain, like, maybe a relationship. Do that, right? And I'm not saying that you can't have a relationship if you're in college, but I would just stay focused on what you want to do and do that. And you will be better. You'll be in a better place to start a relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I also think, like, if you're staying on a path that you feel really strongly about, it might even, you have to work for a relationship, but something like that might come to you instead of you, like, nonstop searching for it and getting all, like, because especially in our 20s, like, we see so many people at different places in their life. Some people are having babies, some are married, some are in long-term relationships, some are single. So don't get so caught up on the fact that, like, oh, I'm behind or whatnot. Just stay on the path that you want. And then if it comes into place, like, it's going to happen.
That's a great point, too, because we're way too influenced by our friends and stuff.
Worrying about
Don't
what others
worry
are doing.
about that. Right? Because when you put when you're so focused on being in a relationship as opposed to what you want to do, you forget about what you want to do. Now it becomes about the relationship. You forget about what you want to do, and then it's harder to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, as a human being, just do that. Just do what you want to do, and then so you have a better foundation, to start a relationship.
It's kind of going back to how you were saying, like, how some people, when they get into a relationship, it's like all about me, and then they forget to compromise. And I feel like if you're not settled with yourself, you're going to look for that other person to fill in that void.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that's not what somebody's supposed to do.
That's not what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be, you're supposed to come together as two separate pieces coming to a bigger one, as opposed to, like, to have
them filling in stuff.
Yeah, and then filling things in for you.
And we're not designed to be like, to fulfill, we're not designed to do that. I'm not designed to be like
a mind
your
reader.
everything.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
be my everything. Like, that doesn't work like that.
No.
You know? Yeah.
That's so true. Well,
Keith spoke some wisdom,
seriously.
okay?
I
But
feel
no,
like
truly.
it,
Like,
really.
No, we're in the moment, but not saying that you're not. You're in your moment right now. We're all in our own moment, but it's like you've been through what we're kind of going through right now. So it's nice to hear that, it'll work out.
I know.
It takes effort and time, but it'll work out, you know? So.
Well, and that's why I can sit here and say, like, honestly, 20 years ago, I'd have been a hot mess sitting here. Right? But I'm comfortable being me and where I'm at, being Uncle Keith.
Uncle Keith.
Hoping that you and Dylan get married too. So I can
Is that the third time?
So I can officiate the wedding.
I was telling her about this. I'm like, Keith has this vision right
Yeah,
here.
I do. I got this. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I just officiated Adelaide's wedding.
Yeah.
So
our Dylan's cousin.
my niece. But yeah, I can sit here and have these conversations because I have true joy in my life, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't have a girlfriend,
Yeah.
or I don't have someone in my life.
Right.
It has nothing to do with that. I'm just happy. But it took a long time for me to get to that place.
Right.
And, you know, we can have other conversations about that.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to know, you know, how I got there.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's a great feeling knowing that I can be happy being single.
Right. Yeah.
Because my happiness doesn't hinge on anyone else.
Exactly. Period.
Yeah.
That
And you
was
know
good.
what? That is the way to
Wrap it
action.
up.
Not action.
Cut.
We already, Hello. Anyways, but no, thank you so much again for
Yes,
coming
thank you for
on
being
and
here.
sharing
Thank
it.
you for having me. This was so cool.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I
Yes.
really enjoyed this conversation. So I definitely took a lot of things away from it. So I really
Oh, good.
appreciate it.
I'm glad.
All right.
I took a lot away from it too.
good.
the record.
Good. Good.
record.
I'm glad.
All right. Well, we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.